If you're at the point in your life where work is optional and you decide to sell your business, the biggest risk that you expose to being you're no longer going to work is the risk of running out of money at some point in your life. Assuming you would stop working, let's say at 60 years old and you live to 95, well, that's a 35-year period where you're going to go through different economic environments and market environments. So the key things that you really need to be thinking about is how to protect yourself from that risk and make sure you never run out of money again. What people often think is that the risk you're exposed to is the risk of your money being invested and the volatility of those investments. One thing I will tell you is that yes, volatility is real and it does make many people emotional, and you're going to go through a couple, three or four different market crashes. So, because it is risk of volatility, many people shy away from taking risk. But the reality is, if there's a real serious risk of running out of money, you need to take on some risk when it comes to investing your money when you sell your business and when you're ready to fully retire. You have to take on some risk within your portfolio and maybe more risk than you want to take because your money has to outlast your spending. So, for example, if you stopped working in 2008, in the beginning of 2008, well, over the next 12 to 15, 18 months, the market went down from peak to trough north of 40 to 50%. So if your portfolio experienced some of that volatility, it took you a long time to break even. So the timing and the returns that you're going to be receiving throughout retirement is really unknown. However, what's important to understand is to factor in various rates of return that you may return on average over that course of you being fully retired. So you got to think about inflation, taxes, and the rate of return on your money. And that's going to be paramount to the success that you're going to have. The volatility of your investments is just volatility. It doesn't mean anything more than that. When your portfolio goes down because you're in a difficult time with the markets or the economy, the portfolio doesn't stay there forever. It eventually recuperates and it then climbs to new levels. And we've seen that over the past 200 years of really studying the markets. So I can tell you a story. I did an event, and one of these prospects came into my office after the event because he was interested in working with me. And one of the questions I asked him right away was, what are your major financial concerns right now? And he sat back and he said, Phil, I'm concerned that I'm going to run out of money. I said, well, why are you concerned about running out of money? He said, I'm concerned about running out of money because I feel that we are spending way too much. I said, well, how much do you have in assets? He said, I have $25 million in assets. So you're probably thinking to yourself, someone who has $25 million in assets, how could they possibly worry about running out of money? So after reviewing his overall expenses, he did indeed have a big chance of running out of money at some point down the road. So what I want to do now is walk you through exactly what you need to understand so you never worry about running out of money again. So the first part of this is, fortunately today, there's really great technology from a financial tool standpoint that could really help you analyze your current situation. But here's the key thing. I say this all the time. Anybody could input data into financial software, but it's how you interpret it and utilize the tool is what's going to make the difference in reducing your anxiety so you have financial peace of mind. In this example that I'm going to show you right now, this is fictitious people. It's just for purposes of helping you understand the current situation. So these people, they're currently 61 and 59 years old, John Jones and Samantha Jones. Their net worth in here, which I plugged in here, they have taxable investments of 2 million. John has a qualified retirement account of 2 million. Samantha has a qualified retirement account of 2 million. John has life insurance of $300,000 in cash value. Samantha has life insurance cash value of 75,000. They have a business that is worth 10 million. Their personal residence is 1.5 million and their real estate is $2 million. So this is their total net worth of assets they currently have. Their current spending is $215,000 per year. In retirement, that's going to increase to about $350,000 based on what their desires are when they officially stop working. So the key thing is we understand what their total net worth looks. And what I like to do is show a report that really gives a strong breakdown and a detailed breakdown all on one page of what the total net worth is. So when you actually take a look at this, this helps simplify how much do I have in what's called taxable non-qualified assets. So these assets are monies that you put into these accounts that you pay taxes on and you started to invest your capital, whether it's in money market funds, stocks, bonds, or other types of investments. That's called non-qualified assets. Qualified assets are your retirement accounts. Now, in retirement accounts, money that goes into those accounts normally is tax deferred and also is money that's never been taxed before. typically IRA accounts. Now, Roth IRA accounts, which is one of the best type of accounts out there, that's great for legacy planning as well, are monies that go into there are after-tax monies that get invested into those accounts or contributed to those accounts and grow tax advantaged. And when those monies come out, they always come out tax-free to either you or the beneficiaries of those accounts. So the qualified accounts here, retirement accounts, total 4 million. So their total, what I call liquid assets, are 6.375 million. Now, liquid assets are assets that are readily available if you need to have the money today. If you need to sell something, it may take a couple of days, but it's readily available. Versus real estate or your business may take a long time until you can have access to any type of cash that would be derived from those particular assets. So in this situation, this client has total net worth of 19.87 million. So here's what we need to solve for next. So if the client wants to retire, so in this case here, where we have the client retiring, going back to the facts at age 63. So at age 63, John and Samantha would both like to retire. So here's the plan that we put in place. We want to understand, based on the total assets that they have, including selling their business at 63 and living on $350,000 per year, will they have enough money to live comfortably in the same exact lifestyle that they're used to for the rest of their life? So looking at the planning tool here, what you can see is the current situation says that based on inflation on average of 2%, based on the assets they have saved up and the income desires, they have a 100% chance that they're not going to run out of money at age of 95 years old. So to give you a little bit more detailed look at this, if you go to their cash flow, not including their real estate, so as far as their portfolio assets, which would include selling of the business, so as you can see here, for the first couple of years, their total portfolio assets go from 7.2 million to 8.2 million due to growth in income flows. And then you see this big, large jump of 18.471 million, which is the after-tax addition of selling their business. And as we go through this, going out to age 95 years old, the amount of money that would be inherited for their children would be somewhere north of 29 million, which would not include their real estate. So this is a very, very good scenario. So when I go back to the client, they could have the peace of mind knowing that based on their current situation and growing their portfolio assets by 5% and change, that they're going to have no risk of running out of money. But the next step then is to say, okay, well, their desire is $350,000 per year, right? Well, what's the most amount of money that this client can spend and still be in what I call the safe zone? In this situation, if we put back in 350,000 and we go to maximum spending, if we plug in through 450,000, so 450,000 shows they're in good shape, 500,000. So after we go through the current situation and show them what they could actually spend and they're in good situation, the next thing to do is to show them what's the most amount of money that I can spend and still be in great shape. So you can see from this example here that anything over 82% shows that they're in good shape and they don't have a risk, or they have a very low risk of potentially running out of money down the road. So in this example, we're able to tell the client that instead of you spending 350,000, now you could spend 550,000 if that's your desire. Now, the great thing about that, and the way I explain this to people all the time, is your desire is to spend 350 to be able to maintain the same exact lifestyle that you used to. I'm telling you, based on the math, you can spend 550. So that gives us some wiggle room in the event that their assumptions of their expenses are off by a decent amount. So it gives us some flexibility, which is what you really want. So that's the second part of this. The third part is you want to say to yourself, well, what if inflation averages 4%? Well, if inflation averages 4%, they're still in good shape. Now, historically, inflation's been around 2 to 3%. Recently, it's picked up. The question is where it's going to settle, and nobody can guess that perfectly or make a prognosis that's going to be perfect. So after you go through maximum spend, then you want to talk about inflation. So inflation historically has averaged 2 to 3%. In this case here, I increased it to 4%. So we're assuming that if you retire at 63, based on this situation, you live to 95, we're assuming that inflation averages 4%, which is actually pretty high over that long period of time. So if that were to happen, they're still in great shape. And then the last iteration that I like to go through is, what if they average 3% per year over that period of time from 63 to 95 years old? Here's what I tell people all the time. When you think about where you are today in terms of your age, and let's assume you die at 95 years old, your money is going to average something over that period of time. We could all agree to that, right? You're going to average 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, depending on how much risk you take, but you're going to average something. What if you averaged 3% over that period of time? Are you still going to be in the safe zone and not worrying about running out of money? And the answer, according to this analysis here, is that absolutely yes. If they average 3%, they're still in great shape. So here is the beauty behind this. So when I talk about never worrying about money, running out of money again, the way you really understand this is by going through these 4 examples that I give you here. Number one, current situation averages 4.15% of your money in an inflation of 2%. In that situation, you have a 100% chance you're not going to run out of money. What's the most you can spend? This client wanted 350. Instead, we're saying you can spend 550. We don't want you to spend 550. We'd rather keep you at the 350 level and give some room for mistakes or maybe additional expenses you didn't see. Third thing is inflation. So if inflation averages 4%, you're still in good shape. And then rate of return. So if your rate of return is 3%, you're still in great shape. So the advantage of going through these various iterations is to give you the financial peace of mind and bring that anxiety down. So when you're driving in your car, let's say you officially stopped working and you're thinking about your financial situation, you know that you really stress test your situation. Just like when you go to cardiologist and you stress test your heart, you stress test your situation in different economic environments, and the outcomes are still very positive. This is what's so important, to over plan and be conservative with all your assumptions. So for example, let's keep it simple and say you're spending 200,000 a year. Well, use 250 rather than 200,000. If inflation is average 2 to 3%, use 4%. If you're assuming a rate of return of 6 or 7% over the course of 30 or 40 years, depending on when you actually stop working, any assumptions of as far as longevity you want to utilize, well, use 3%, 4%. How do those numbers look? And if all those numbers, if you check the box with all those numbers, you're going to feel great about yourself. You're going to give yourself an incredible feeling of financial peace of mind, because at the end of the day, that's what we want to feel as it relates to our money. If you like what you heard today, press like below and put any type of comments that you may have, and I'll be sure to respond to them to help you any way I possibly can.